Hello again, beer fans. I've been kind of leaving you guys alone lately to do whiskey reviews, but I haven't forgotten about you and your love of cheap beer. Because some of my listeners don't like expensive whiskey, I like cheap beer, and that's alright. So, we're going into the ice beer for a little bit, because I'm about running out of cheap beer, to tell you the truth. I'm sure there's more out there I haven't reviewed. Feel free to throw me suggestions. But this is Bud Ice. Now, cannot say for sure how Budweiser does it, and whether or not this is, I don't know if this is just your regular Bud with the extra ice process. And you may ask, what is the ice process? And you probably know what it is. A lot of you do, and some of you know what it means, but you don't know what it means. And by that I mean, you know it means this: 5.5% alcohol. That's not necessarily, how it always is. It may be higher, it may be a little lower, but you know that in general, compared to the other domestics, the ice beers have more alcohol. And my understanding is that's because water freezes at a higher temperature than alcohol. And so what you're literally doing here is after you make your, I guess, Bud, we can assume it's just Bud, you cool it down and then you scoop some ice out. And that's it. I'm assuming they, I would hope they would do a few things different because, again, in many cases, the beer, this processing to me adds a harshness to the beer because the beer wasn't meant to be at that alcohol. And so, for instance, which I haven't reviewed it yet, but take Natty Ice compared to Natty Light. Natty Ice to me has a flavor, a negative flavor that Natty Light doesn't have. Neither are good, and so it'll be interesting. But interestingly enough, with the Natty Daddy, I actually kind of liked it a little bit more, even though it's heavily iced, as if it had worked better. I don't know. So this is Bud Ice. This was their answer to Miller's Ice House, which eventually I'll get to as well. And staleness there I don't like. You get this little astringency there, a slight hop note, and then it's gone. Very little aftertaste. I mean, you can quaff this pretty good, although 5.5%, you might not want to, but it does have some citrus notes. But again, it's I guess Bud with a little harshness that I don't think is necessarily pleasant. I mean, the hop character comes out a little bit more usually in these beers, and with Bud, that's not really a strength, I guess. So I'm getting more of a bitter and citrusy flavor than I normally get with Bud. But there's also harshness. I'm kind of getting into it as I'm drinking it. My tongue's kind of adjusting to it. That I'm liking a little more. I get wasted off of this pretty easily because it goes back. Overall, what would I say? Well, I'm not a Bud drinker. You guys probably know that. I haven't been negative to Bud, but I don't actually drink Bud. If I'm going to buy a standard domestic, it's probably going to be Schlitz or Yuengling that I'm going to get if I'm going to get a domestic. Maybe even Genesee. I would stick with Bud over this, though. If I was making kind of a decision, and I was saying, well, it's either going to be this or Bud, I would drink Bud, because I think unless your only goal is to get wasted, which if that's your goal, this is a better option. But it might not be as good of an option as, say, Natty Daddy, a Bud Light Platinum, which I would suggest for the pure, I want to get wasted, those are better beers. Particularly Natty Daddy. I mean, that's pretty cheap, and it's not actually that terrible. This is fine, though, if you want, I guess, to get wasted quicker off Bud. But I do think that when you drink this, you don't have that sense that, say, I did when I drink Bud, that it's really impressive how there's just no off notes in this beer. It's perfectly smooth, nothing obtrusive, no flavors that are really hitting you in the face or anything. It's just goes down. This has a little bit more going on there. You may like that. I find the note, like you're mixing a decent note with a bad note, and that overall washes out to an inferior flavor than your standard Bud has. Regardless, it's drinkable. You can see I downed it pretty quick. 7 minutes, I mean, less than 7 minutes really, and 18 ounces, that's pretty, that goes back, guys. And so again, this is certainly one that you can chug. Don't drink this. This might not be the best choice for lawnmower beer, because you might get too wasted. Anyway, that's all I got. See ya.